Hello trader, welcome to this video today. So today is on weekend, and as usual we know very well we do our top-down analysis. So without wasting time, we're gonna dive into the market and see what we'll be watching for this coming week. So my first pair that I would like to analyze today is gonna be the DXY. I know you are used to seeing the Euro USD, but today we're gonna start with the DXY because we know very well DXY it's known for the direction for the dollar pairs. So when you want to trade the dollar pairs, the major dollar pairs the like of Euro USD, GBPUSD, AUDUSD, it is always advisable that you be updated on what is happening on the DXY, because honestly, if the DXY is bullish, you expect the opposite of that on dollar pairs. If the DXY is bearish, you expect the opposite of the bias that you're having on the DXY. So looking at the DXY from the monthly time frame, we can see very clearly that this was our last bullish breakout structure to the upside. If you know how we normally do our analysis, we can see that this is a very strong low, because you can see it sweeping this low, or this internal liquidity being swept before the market came up to break the structure to the upside. So that one makes this low to be our protected low. All right. So what are we seeing? You can see the market traded to the discount zone. All right. If you pick your fib from the high to the low, we can critically see that the market traded to the discount. Now it's up to us to know to see where where did this market react from. So if I can go to 3 months time frame, let's see where this market reacted from. So from this time frame, actually we don't have a good order block to mark from there. Let's go back to 1 month. So from monthly time frame, you can see that we have this order block around this area, and that is where the DXY reacted from. We have that order block from the weekly time frame. We saw rejection from that area. So now when you go down to the weekly time frame, you want to see what the weekly time frame was doing. So from the weekly time frame, can we refine our zone? Absolutely, we can refine. You can see we have this indecision candle inside here. That is from the weekly time frame. So you can still remove this one. I'll be remained with that as the order block where this DXY reacted from. So let's go to the daily and see what the daily is having. So from the daily time frame, this was our last breakout structure to the downside. We see we had this BOS to the downside, which was also a very good breakout structure, because we see we had a sweep of this I first. We had a liquidity sweep before market came down to take out this low. Now we have a break to the downside, which later on we saw a change of character to the upside. And since then, the market turned from bearish to bullish. That is our confirmation that this bearish movement was over and the market was ready to start going up. So after this market structure shift, so market came down for a pullback, whereby it reacted from this order block here, the last sell candle before this buy movement. All right, and you can see that this low swept this internal liquidity before pushing up to give us a BOS, meaning now you have a very strong breakout structure to the upside. Okay, so you can see the market tried to give us a little bit of pullback, and currently is turning to be bullish again. So I want us to go back to the weekly and see where is this market reacted from. You can see here from the weekly time frame, we have got this order block, right? We have this last bearish candle which led to this breakout structure here. That becomes our order block. We saw, can see that the DXY reacted from that order block, and it's currently buying from that zone. So from what we can see now, we can see that for the coming week, we are anticipating uh, the DXY to come and take out this I uh, to give us a new breakout structure to the upside. But now we cannot assume that. Let's go to the 4-hour. Remember very well the time frame alignment. If the 4-hour gives us a market structure shift to the upside, that is confirmation that the market is respecting this zone. All right. So going to the 4-hour, what are we seeing 4-hour doing? So from the 4-hour time frame, you can really see that this is the last breakout structure to the downside. All right. We have that BOS, internal BOS, which later on gave us a market structure shift to the upside. So we have a change of character to the upside. That is an indication that the market is now ready to start going up. So once you have this change of so since now we have this market structure shift from the 4-hour time frame, what are we anticipating? Of course, because the market has taken out the external structure, we are anticipating for a little bit of pullback before continuation to the upside. So if we pick our fib, we place from the swing high all the way to the swing high of swing low, we really want to mark the point of interest that are resting below the 50%. And if I look closely, I have got this order block here. All right, that is one of our PO highs, and we still have this extreme order block around this area. So those are the 2 points of interest that I can see from this pair or from this time frame. All right, so what will we be anticipating? We'll be anticipating the BTC, not BTC, but the DXY to give us a little bit of pullback. Come and sweep these equal relative lows here as liquidity, tap to this zone, and then we'll look for buying opportunity from there. Or if maybe the market comes to the 50% and decide to reverse from there, we'll be taking our buys from that area. So now, since now we know that the DXY is bullish, we are expected to be bearish on EURUSD and the GBPUSD. Now let's proceed to the EURUSD and see what the EURUSD is having. All right, so I'm going to start my analysis from the daily time frame. Since we have done that from DXY, we can just start from the daily time frame. All right, so from the daily time frame, you can see very clearly that we are very bearish from EURUSD. This is the last break of structure the market gave us, the external break of structure to the downside. So we were anticipating for the Euro USD to come to this order block and then we sell from there. But unfortunately, it has not given us an intention of coming to that area. So as usual, you know very well, we react with what the market is doing, but not predicting the market. So if you remember closely, from what we have been talking about is that if this is the last fractal break of structure to the downside, and we said very well, if the daily swing wants to come for a pullback, then the 4-hour swing will give us a change of character. And since the 4-hour time frame never gave us a change of character, so what happened? The market came, swept this high, and started pushing down again. So from the analysis that we did on Wednesday, not Wednesday but Thursday, we were anticipating for Euro USD to come react from this order block, and then we push I again to take out this I. But unfortunately, you can see that the euro had other plans. So, and of which is something that was expected, since now we have this one as our external break of structure. Remember, always the external structure will always win. All right. So we have this one as our last break of structure from the 4-hour. Since we said this is our protected eye. All right. Then we had this one as our last break of structure. So whatever was happening inside here was purely an internal structure, because you could see we had this bullish break of structure here. All right, that is an internal BOS. We also have a new internal BOS around this area. So what were we anticipating? We were anticipating the market to come at least to this demand zone, and then we buy from here to target this high. But unfortunately, market closed below this zone, and once we closed below that zone, now we have a market structure shift. So this is a change of character to the downside. So since now we have a change of character, what do we do, guys? You know very well. You know the drill. You pick a fib from the high to the low, mark a point of window that is resting at the premium. And you can see very clearly we have this order block here, right, which is sitting at the equilibrium as at now. Because up here, you can also see we have an order block here. So those are the 2 points of window that I can see from this time frame. If I go to the daily, yeah, from the daily time frame, there is nothing to mark. So we just go with the point of view that is we are having on the 4-hour time frame. So currently, what are we anticipating? We are anticipating the market to come to these areas, and then we'll be looking for selling opportunity to the downside. All right. So in case the market decide to sell down and give us a new break of structure, we'll just follow what the market is doing, guys. And from what I can see, let's look at the 4-hour. So from the 4-hour time frame, you can see that Euro USD traded to this massive fair value gap, whereby it traded to the 50% of this massive fair value gap, and currently it's having a rejection to the downside. So if I go to the 15 minutes time frame, let's see what the 15 minutes time frame is doing. We can see that this was our last bullish break of structure from the 15 minutes time frame, which later on gave us a change of character here. All right, so we have that change of character. Market came, reacted from this flip zone around this area, and it's currently selling to the downside. If for instance the market will open up and continue going down and break this low, if we break this low, what will I do? I'll wait for a pullback for market to come to this area, and then I will take my selling opportunity from this area. All right. That is only if the market will push down here and give us this break of structure. If we'll have a new break of structure here, then I'll just be looking for selling opportunity from this area uh, to target the new lower low that the market will create. If, for instance, the market will continue going up to the upside, then this will be my point of interest from the 4-hour time frame, whereby I'll be looking to sell the Euro USD from this area. So my bias on Euro USD is bearish. So I'll be looking for selling opportunities come the market opens on Monday. All right. So that is it on Euro USD. Going to the next pair, which is going to be the GBP USD. Now let's start from the daily. So from the daily time frame, what are we seeing? We had this one as our fake BOS. Market swept liquidity here. Actually, we're anticipating the same thing with the GBP USD, that we are expecting the GBP USD to trade to this demand zone down here, and then we push I to this area, to this supply zone, and then we look for selling opportunity from there. But unfortunately, market decided to give us a market structure shift after sweeping this liquidity and also these relative equal highs around this area. And since now we have a very strong change of character here, so as usual, we'll pick our fib, place from the high to the low. What do? We mark the point of interest that are resting within the equilibrium and above, and I can see a very good order block around this area. So if this market decides to push up to this area, then you should be looking for confirmation, guys. And remember, whenever I mark this point of interest, does not mean that this is your entry zone. Okay, so what you are supposed to do, once the market taps to your point of interest, wait for that M formation. All right, this is what we call the M formation. A market structure shift from the lower time frame, your entry time frame. Because remember, guys, you should be having at least 3 time frame that you trade. We have the higher time frame for direction bias. We have intermediate time frame where you analyze your market, and then you have the lower time frame where you take your entries from. All right. So if the 4-hour is your intermediate time frame, that means that is where you are supposed to mark your point of interest. Then once the market taps to your point of interest, now shift down to the lower time frame, which is gonna be your entry time frame, and wait for confirmation from those lower time frame. All right. So if the market is bearish like this, once the market comes to this area, I need to see an M shape formation from the 15 minutes time frame, and then I will look for my entries targeting these lows to the downside. So again, on Euro GBP USD, I'll be looking for selling opportunity if the market will have that pullback to this area uh, to sell, targeting these lows to the downside. So the next pair is gonna be gold, of course. All right. So from what is happening on gold, let's see what the gold is doing. So we saw our previous analysis that we did, we saw that this was the last bullish break of structure on gold. Of course, we had this break of structure to the upside. So gold traded to this support zone. But remember, we said if this market wants to tell us that it's bearish or it's bullish, then it has to give us a change of character. And where do we expect a change of character from? This protected high. If this market wants to start going up, then it has to close above here. So once we close above here, that will be our confirmation that the market is respecting this external structure, and now we'll be looking for buys to the upside. So as at now, currently, we saw that this is the last break of structure to the downside. So now if we go to the 4-hour time frame, what are we seeing? So from the 4-hour time frame, it remains to be our swing from the 4-hour time frame. If I can highlight it, we have a lower low, we have a lower high, and then we have a lower low down here. So that is our external swing structure from the 4-hour time frame. All right. So what are we seeing? We can see that the market traded to the discount area, to the premium, sorry. If we pick our fib from the high to the low, you can see that we traded to the premium, reacted from this order block, and currently we are being selling on gold. So currently there is something gold did here. It came reacted from this demand zone because we had this internal change of character here. So gold came reacted from this order block here and then gave us an change of character. Although from what we are seeing, uh, we reacted from this 2 hour order supply zone here. So gold traded to this supply zone and it's giving us a selling opportunity from that area. But now, judging from the external perspective of this market, we can see that this is a last break of structure to the downside. So if we have to look at the swing structure, in terms of swing from the 4 hour time frame is very bearish. Regardless that the market is traded to the premium and it's now currently selling to the downside, we are still bearish from the 4 hour time frame. But the internal structure is telling us that we are bullish because of this internal change of character here. Right? So that is why you can see I'm marking this supply zone down here, where the gold never tapped to that supply zone, just came, it as rejection just some few pips before tapping to this supply zone. So in case the market will come to this zone again, I'll still be looking for buying opportunity from this area because internally I have this internal change of character here to the upside. All right. If by any means gold decide to violate this zone and comes down and takes out this low, then that means now we are going down. We just follow what the market is doing. And currently, since we have this internal change of character, we'll be looking to buy from this area if the market will come to this zone. If we decide to sell and takes out this protected low, then we'll have a change of character to the downside, which will be aligning with this external structure. All right. So either way, we'll just follow what the market is doing. All right. So as at now, because this is what I'm seeing, I will be anticipating for gold to come to this supply zone, and then you look for buying opportunity from there. But before then, let's see what the market is doing from the lower time frame. I can refine that zone from the 1 hour time frame, which will land me to this demand zone down there. All right. So from the 15 minutes time frame, 15 minutes time frame is kind of giving us a change of character because we are seeing this one as our last BOS. Although this is not a strong change of character, but it's a change of character. This is what I call a weak change of character. You see the market traded to that zone, and then you can see we have a bullish breakout structure here, which also swept this liquidity here. So we have a sweep of liquidity before a breakout structure to the upside. All right. So now that makes this one to be a order block down here. All right. Now it depends on how gold will do once the market opens up. So if the gold decides to react from this area, we just follow what the market will be doing. All right. But it will be very good if this gold can really push down, come to tap to this order block, and then gives us that bullish break of structure to the upside or bullish change of character to the upside, and we're looking to take our buys from there. If the gold did not violate this zone, but first of all, let's see whether this pullback came to the 50%. Let's see. Oh, we can see that this pullback never came to the 50%, though there is high chances that this demand zone will fail. Right. So if I have to mark the point, I have this order block down here. That is from the 15 minutes time frame. And this will be a very good zone to watch out for. Let's go to the 1 hour. Actually, from the 1 hour time frame, we have this order block down here. All right. So I don't expect this order block to hold, since you have seen from the 15 minutes time frame, this pullback, even if it swept liquidity, never came to the 50% of this dealing range. So in most cases, you will find that market will use this low as liquidity. All right. There is high chances that the market will use this low as liquidity, come to this demand zone, and then we look for buying opportunity. Of course, this point of view that we are marking here, guys, because I've started by saying this is a weak change of character, right? Market can decide to come and use this demand zone as liquidity, tap to this extreme order block, and then we buy from this area. So these are not the zone that you should be taking aggressive entries. All right, wait for a very good confirmation from these zones before looking for any buying opportunity. So the next pair is gonna be BTCUSD. So from the BTCUSD, let me start from the 4 hour time frame. We can see that the BTC is very bullish. The internal structure is bullish, although the external structure is bearish, but the internal structure was bullish. So last time, the analysis that we did, we had a point of interest. We had marked these 2 points of interest. We had this order block here from the 1 hour, and then we had this extreme order block here from the 4 hour time frame. All right. So since now the market came to this order block, but we never got a change of character to the upside. This is why I always tell you guys, you wait for a very good confirmation. So market came to this zone, but later on crashed down and took out this zone, and you can see that it has already swept this inducement here. All right. So but we have not stopped to this order block here. So if it wants to come to that area, so I have this order block here. I have that order block which is giving me this, and then you have this internal break of structure here to the downside. All right. So I'll be watching out what the BTC will do around this area. But also don't forget, I have to mention this, market has already traded to the discount. So anything can happen as at now, guys. All right. You can see the market has traded to the discount. So it is not wise for you to be looking for selling opportunity around this area. All right. But in case it comes to this area, and it gives you a very good confirmation from the 15 minutes time frame, a very strong confirmation, I'll still take that sell. All right, targeting this demand zone down here. But if the market decides to violate this zone and breaks above, then we'll have an internal change of character. So what will you do? We wait for confirmation, or we wait for a pullback, market to come to the discount area, and then we took our buys from that area. All right. So now I have two zones to watch on BTC. I have this supply zone, and I also have this demand zone here. All right. Although the market has swept liquidity here and it can decide to buy, but since I'm seeing this structure and I'm also seeing this structure, I will just watch out and see what the market will do. If I get a confirmation to sell here, I will sell. If it decides to push down to this demand zone, I'll be looking for buying opportunity from this area to target this high. So my bias on BTC, we are bullish. The internal structure is bullish. Of course, although the external structure is bearish, but since the internal has not shown us an intention of bearish movement, so we still go with what we are seeing. So if by Wednesday I will get a very good update, I will come here back again, guys, and keep you posted on what has happened within the week. So the last pair we're going to analyze today is going to be AUDUSD. All right, so AUDUSD is also, guys, showing us a bullish market. All right, although this was our last break of structure to the downside from the 4-hour time frame, we were anticipating it to come and sweep this high. All right, sweep this liquidity, come to this supply zone, and then we look for buying opportunity, selling opportunity from this area. So, but from what is happening, you can see that this is the last internal break of structure here that you can see to the upside. Market came and it's currently reacting from this supply zone, this demand zone, sorry, which swept this liquidity. And see now we have, this is what I see. I have we have the mixed buyers now here. You can see the market is currently rejecting from this zone. Now let me just explain that from the lower time frame. Last time we did this analysis here, it was on Thursday. The market had already given us a change of character because you can see this is the last BOS, and then we had an internal change of character here. So this was our point of interest. We were looking to buy AUDUSD from this area, of course, with a confirmation. But since the market never gave confirmation, it pushed down and gave us a change of character. So this zone became our breaker block now, right? If a demand zone is violated, becomes a breaker block. So what are we seeing? The market came to that breaker block and is currently giving a rejection from that area. All right. We have a sweep of that eye, which is gonna be a break from the lower time frame. So from the 15 minutes time frame, we have a break. If by any means this market will break this low, the same to what we have seen on EURUSD. If the market will break this low to the downside, then I will have a change of character. So what will I do? I'll wait for a pullback, look for an area to sell, and I will be targeting this low, because that is what I'm seeing the market doing. All right. If this market really wanted to buy, then it should have bought from this demand zone. But we failed. This demand zone failed to hold. So it became our breaker block. So that is what I will be watching out on AUDUSD. I will have highs on this. In case I get any update, I will keep you posted, guys. So that is it, guys, for today's analysis. I don't know what you think about this analysis if we're done today. Let me know in the comment section what do you think about this. So until next time, so bye bye for now.